there's been quite a lot of these bodybuilders or fitness people, physique athletes who just suddenly die to various conditions. Here are a few examples. Aziz Shavershian, he died at the age of 22 in 2011 to a heart attack. Rich Piana died at age 46 in 2017 after collapsing at his home and falling into a coma. Dallas McCarver died at age 26 in 2017 from sudden cardiac arrest. Mariola Sabanovic Suarez died at age 43 in 2019 to a heart attack. Daniel Alexander died at age 30 in 2019 to unknown causes. So what are the main reasons why these people die so young? Number 1, steroid use. Almost all of the bodybuilders you hear about dying were using steroids. It's known that long-term use of anabolic steroids impairs cardiac function, promotes poor lipid profile, raises blood pressure, and makes the heart grow in size. Using steroids also enlarges the organs like the heart because it's a muscle. This puts additional stress on the cardiovascular system because the heart has to keep working harder. Having more muscle tissue itself requires more cardiac output. Now, there's probably some difference between medical testosterone replacement therapy or actually using these high amounts of anabolic steroids in large quantities, which then just leads to this cardiac dysfunction. There are also other compounds bodybuilders use besides steroids, like insulin, growth hormone, diuretics, etc., that can all be equally dangerous if you abuse them. For example, injecting too much insulin can cause severe hypoglycemia and death. It's also quite common for some people to attempt suicide or succeed in using insulin and other diabetic medications. Diuretics that make your body excrete water and appear to look leaner can also lead to severe dehydration and organ failure. Number 2, pre-existing conditions. Some people have either bad genetics for heart disease or they have some other pre-existing condition. For example, Aziz Shavershian had an undiagnosed congenital heart defect since his birth. He also had high blood pressure and he died to a heart attack while taking a sauna. Dallas McCarver had atherosclerosis and cardiomegaly when he died from his previous history of dyslipidemia. So your genetics and the past medical history is going to greatly determine how your body reacts to steroids. And if you have, bad biomarkers or you have bad genetics for heart disease or heart failure, then you're increasing your risk of getting those diseases or a sudden heart attack just because of you're at a high risk already. This is a good thing to remember when you're not taking steroids or doing bodybuilding, because otherwise you're just shooting blanks into the dark. Your genetics will greatly determine whether a high saturated fat diet is going to increase your risk of Alzheimer's or heart disease, regardless of if you're taking steroids or not. So everyone shouldn't have the same diet protocol and everyone should know their genetics. So I think that genetics and the steroids are probably the biggest reasons why these bodybuilders die prematurely. But this doesn't apply to only bodybuilders. Other athletes like professional wrestlers and football players also have a significantly higher rate of mortality and cardiovascular disease, probably because of the same reasons: drugs, genetics, and maybe the chronic overtraining at high intensities. The bodybuilders, professional bodybuilders and fitness competitors, they tend to take things to the extreme, and of course, most people are never going to reach that. Like the average person is never going to build that much muscle to reach this dangerous threshold. It's only the steroid use and the drugs and of course the genetics that gonna allow these people to build that much mass in the first place. Having more muscle and strength is actually a very beneficial thing for healthy aging and longevity. It's going to make it easier to lose weight, prevent metabolic syndrome, protect against neurodegeneration, and so much more. This becomes increasingly more important the older you get. After the age of 30, aging is characterized by a progressive decrease in skeletal muscle. This process is called sarcopenia, and it can happen at a rate of 3 to 8% per decade. From the age of 40, lean tissue and strength get reduced by about 1% per year. There's a lot of research suggesting that muscular strength is inversely and independently associated with all-cause mortality. A 2016 paper found that amongst a large cohort of 65 and older, mortality rates were significantly lower in individuals who did regular strength training. Basically, more muscle and strength reduces your chances of dying and can increase your lifespan, especially in older people. Having an excess amount of muscle like professional bodybuilders can be unhealthy because of heart enlargement, the additional burden on the cardiovascular system, and having to eat such a large amount of food to first build and maintain that mass. At that point, you will probably need to take anabolic steroids or some drugs to get there in the first place. So that's why regular people who aren't on drugs shouldn't be afraid of recreational natural bodybuilding and doing some strength training. Another thing that could shorten the lifespans of bodybuilders is excess protein and calorie consumption. It's quite known in at least animal studies and cell studies that eating less protein and specifically less of methionine, the amino acid, can increase lifespan and slow down aging. The increased lifespan seen in methionine restriction is considered to be caused by the downregulation of anabolic pathways like IGF-1, mTOR, and insulin. Overexpression of mTOR and IGF-1 is often related to various cancers. Most of the animal protein like eggs, meat, and chicken are high in methionine, which is what bodybuilders eat the majority of time. It might be that the super high protein diet can improve your body composition by promoting muscle growth and helping with weight loss, but at some point it's also going to overburden the kidneys and overstimulate mTOR, which may accelerate aging or promote the development of malignancies. It's been found that low protein intake reduces IGF-1 levels and incidence of cancer in 65 and younger, but not older people. However, both high as well as low levels of IGF-1 are associated with cancer mortality in older men. In fact, a meta-analysis of 12 studies with over 14,000 participants found that people with low IGF-1 were at a 1.27 risk of dying than those with higher levels were at a 1.18 risk. Lower levels of IGF-1 may be actually more detrimental as you age, as you'll be more predisposed to muscle loss and bone fractures. So, going on a low-protein diet, it may reduce your IGF-1 levels, but it can also increase your risk of osteoporosis, muscle loss, and just frailty. On the other hand, if your IGF-1 levels are too high because of, taking anabolic steroids, injecting IGF-1, or just, eating too much protein, that can also promote the development of some malignancies or some aging. Keep doing resistance training. Staying physically active and functionally fit is probably one of the best things you can do for anti-aging longevity. You shouldn't be afraid of building muscle either, because unless you're taking anabolic steroids, you're never going to build that much mass that it gets dangerous. Get a DNA test. It's highly recommended to take some sort of a genetic test to see what genetic risk factors you have for not only heart disease, but any other comorbidity like cancer or diabetes. Eat sufficient amounts of protein. A higher protein diet is still safe and not unhealthy if you stay metabolically healthy and you're not eating a crazy amount. Research finds there is no additional muscle building benefits to eating above 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. The most you may get is like 1.2 or 1.5 grams per pound, but no need for more. And lastly, do time restricted eating. Intermittent fasting and eating less often is the most effective way to lower IGF-1 and mTOR. It's probably more effective than methionine restriction because instead of stimulating mTOR 5 to 6 times a day, you do it only 2 to 3 times. In conclusion, building muscle and strength training is one of the best things for your health, especially healthy aging. But of course, if you take it to the extreme, then it can certainly be unhealthy and dangerous to you. Unless you're taking steroids, then you probably don't have anything to worry about, and you should still keep yourself physically active and lift weights.